This episode is sponsored by historiansart.com. Please visit their site and check out some of their beautiful works of art.
The Whitten-Whitehurst-Stevenson feud is a tale of violence and retribution on Florida's frontier, echoing the infamous Hatfield-McCoy conflict. This brutal series of events unfolded in the late 1890s in the sleepy coastal village of Tarpon Springs, when the arrival of railroads began transforming Florida's wild, swampy expanse into a land of new opportunities. It also bred fierce rivalries. The feud began with a public altercation between Tarpon Springs Town Marshal, William "Rat" Whitehurst, and Constantine "Bud" Stevenson, a resident of Hudson. The catalyst was Whitehurst's public whipping of Stevenson with a buggy whip, retaliation for Stevenson's earlier assault on Whitehurst's elderly uncle over accusations of cattle theft, a serious offense in a state where ranching was vital to the economy. Word of the assault on the elderly man spread quickly through the small Gulf Coast village, sowing seeds of deep resentment. The simmering animosity exploded on July 4, 1893, during Tarpon Springs' largest Independence Day celebration. The town, decorated with flags, bunting, and flowers, bustled with residents and visitors entertained by speeches, games, and athletic competitions. Marshal Whitehurst was set to participate in an equestrian tournament showcasing feats of horsemanship and skill. Before he could compete, he was called to handle a disturbance near the train depot involving a drunken sponge fisherman named Bob Atwell. Whitehurst, known for his bravery and dedication, responded quickly. As he tried to subdue the belligerent Atwell, Stevenson intervened, escalating the situation. The confrontation intensified, and Stevenson resisted the marshal's authority, taunting him and asserting control. Whitehurst, determined to maintain order, fired 2 warning shots into the ground. In response, Stevenson drew his revolver and shot Whitehurst in the chest. Despite the fatal wound, Whitehurst managed to return fire, striking Stevenson. The struggle turned deadlier when Stevenson's nephew, Johnny McNeil, shot Whitehurst in the back and head. Stevenson then bludgeoned Whitehurst with the butt of his pistol, ensuring his death. The town physician, Dr. Guthrie, rushed to aid Whitehurst but found him beyond saving. The marshal's death rocked the community of Tarpon Springs. Stevenson, gravely wounded, was placed under guard at a house until he could be moved to the Hillsborough County Jail. Whitehurst's funeral drew an outpouring of grief, as townspeople mourned the young marshal who had earned their respect. Three weeks after Whitehurst's murder, vigilante justice came for Bud Stevenson. A masked mob stormed the house where he was recuperating. Shots were fired into but while again injured, Stevenson's life was spared. Instead, Bud's 19-year-old nephew, Henry Osteen, was struck in the crossfire and killed. The boy's death would begin a long cycle of violence between the factions. Stevenson and McNeil stood trial in December 1893, a spectacle that captured local and even national attention. Witnesses described the fatal confrontation, and Stevenson's reputation as a defiant, burly figure was laid bare. Several more witnesses came forward to reveal a twisted truth. The confrontation between Stevenson and Whitehurst had been concocted as a ruse to lure the unsuspecting marshal into a trap. The jury found Stevenson guilty of first-degree murder and McNeil of manslaughter. Stevenson's sentence was life imprisonment, sparing him the hangman's noose. But the victory was short-lived. Judge Baron Phillips declared a mistrial when it emerged that State Attorney H.C. McFarland had previously represented Stevenson, a conflict of interest that upended the prosecution's case. A retrial in December 1894 faltered. The new state attorney, brought in hastily, lacked familiarity with the case, and the conspiracy theory underpinning the prosecution was abandoned. Key testimony from Mrs. C.B. Hernandez, who had heard Atwell confess, was excluded. The jury acquitted Stevenson, and McNeil was never retried. Atwell evaded justice, slipping into the sponge fleet and disappearing. The feud reignited in 1895 when Stevenson's faction launched a violent raid on the Whidden brothers' turpentine camp in southern Pasco County. At 2 a.m. on July 25th, the attackers fired into the camp, killing Dan and Crockett Whidden as they slept in their hammocks. African-American workers nearby awoke to the gruesome scene of their slain employers. Stevenson's life as a marked man culminated in 1897. While plowing a watermelon patch in Hudson, Stevenson was ambushed by Whitehurst and Whidden allies. Gravely wounded, he managed to reach his wife, who brought a shotgun, but it was too late. Stevenson collapsed and died before his family. The attackers allegedly included Tillett Whidden, brother of the slain Whiddens. Tillett had a reputation as a gunslinger. He surrendered himself to the sheriff but denied his involvement and was never convicted. The violence did not end with Stevenson's death. In May 1897, William Edwards, a Whitehurst cousin, was killed while dining with his family, suspected to be retaliation from Stevenson's faction. The feuding gradually faded, marked by Tillett Whidden's 1900 ambush near Fort Thompson. While riding across an open field, Tillett was suddenly shot by an assailant hidden nearby. Severely wounded, he managed to survive, a testament to the ongoing peril faced by those embroiled in the feud. This incident symbolized the end of a violent chapter. The Whidden-Whitehurst-Stevenson feud highlights the harsh realities of frontier justice in 19th century Florida, where loyalty and revenge often outweighed the reach of the law. It remains a stark reminder of an era when disputes were settled with bloodshed, and survival meant being prepared for conflict at every turn.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Florida Films. Please like the video and subscribe to Florida Films. A special thank you to historiansart.com for sponsoring this episode.